Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Dwarven Tavern Radio. I am your host, Jeff Goins, and with me, on location in the Kingdom of Rodarin, is...
Lyric, howdy,
and Josh,
and Ian Goins.
And we have a very special show for you today because it is my birthday for me personally.
yay!
Yeah, thank you very much. I am officially an adult in the Navajo tribes.
And also in the Dwarven eras.
In the Dwarven eras, I'm barely out of diapers. So that makes me feel young, always. So, dwarves forever, hey?
Whoop, whoop.
What do we have on the, what?
A.
I'm a Canadian dwarf, apparently, So what do we have on the docket for today's show?
Well, we have news by Josh Goforth once again, and we will do a little birthday celebration for our good host, and then we will be going on to a review by me, of course, a book called The Golden Kingdom by Jeremy Janes, and we will finish up with DT tips. We haven't yet decided on that one, though. So
okay, all right. Well, I think we have a good idea for what the DT tips are going to be today because Ian is well versed as a dungeon master in terms of what he does. So we'll let him handle that one when we get there. So let's go to the news desk with Josh and see what's happening in the world. What's going on, Josh?
Well, a few different things. It's kind of a slow week this week, but we got new third-party Pathfinder RPG releases. That's coming from us from Paizo.com. Their open gaming license, so they're looking to release up to a handful of new books for the Rise and Fall of Salvation.
Okay.
And also from Paizo.
I think it's Paizo. It might be Paizo, but I think
it would be pronounced Paizo.
Paizo. I think Paizo is. That's how we'll say it.
Pronunciation diagrams are important for all things necessary.
That is, yes, that is necessary for all things necessary.
Well, Paizo announces PaizoCon 2014 in Seattle, Washington, July 4th through the 6th of this year. 3-day badges are $50 in advance, $55 on site. Kids for $25. Banquet tickets are $25 as well. So pretty low costing con, especially the Marriott PaizoCon room special is $109 a night for single and double occupancy. So
that's not bad at all.
It's very cheap in that respect. But it's a celebration of all things Pathfinder, including gaming, panels, workshop, costumes, and it's a chance for Pathfinder players to meet up with members of the community as well as Paizo staff, authors, artists, designers, pretty much everybody that works for Pathfinder or Paizo in one aspect or another.
That's awesome. And I know that Pathfinder is a hysterically popular game because it's like it's not 3.5. People have been nicknaming it 3.75 because it's based on the open the 4.0 gaming license, but it's a throwback to the more popular aspects of 3.5 with some cool stuff added to it.
They add a lot more to different things.
Yeah, especially the combat maneuvers, the non-damaging combat maneuvers where it's like, a shield rush or a takedown, something like that. It's a very simple roll now, as opposed to the 3.5 grappling rules that were just insanely unnecessarily complicated.
Especially if you play a monk, which is what they're
exactly.
First level.
Exactly. If you're a grappler, you just don't even have a chance in 3.5.
Yeah, it's like get stabbed, get dead.
And if grappling wasn't successful, then people wouldn't ever do it in the real world. So grappling
is the most successful.
yeah, it is the most successful fighting style
ever.
Mm-hmm. So it's got to be good, but the rules never reflected that until the Pathfinder came out and did that. did that thing they do with that stuff.
Now, we have yet to play an actual Pathfinder.
That's right. We don't have a Pathfinder campaign.
Now that I got a new job, I'm probably going to buy the Pathfinder stuff probably next week.
Sure. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. I think I have most of the books on PDF, but I don't. For some reason, I don't enjoy using the books in PDF.
I don't like reading off my computer.
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
I could do it if I had a tablet, but I don't like doing it on my laptop.
Yeah, a tablet is much better, or a very, very large phone, which I've been fortunate enough to acquire.
That's a mini tablet.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's a tabletlet. Yes. So what else? What else is in the news? You got me excited.
Last name from Paizo. Did I just pronounce it wrong again?
No. I think Pat Paizo's right.
Well, Pathfinder Adventure Card game for 2013 has been announced as the game of the year. The best of 2013 year-end lists are in, and the Pathfinder Adventure game is a universal hit.
Wow. All over the universe, huh?
It debuted in August of 2013 and topped or charted on many best of 2013 lists among top-tier gaming communities from Dice Tower, Game Informer, Geek Dad, Desert News, No High Scores. It won pretty much very well deserving of Game of the Year.
That's awesome.
And our last bit of news today comes from Wizards.com. For those of you who are like me and enjoy MMOs, the new Neverwinter Curse of Icewind Dale MMO, which is actually a pretty entertaining MMO.
Really?
It's free to play with microtransactions and stuff, but
Yeah, so they can actually keep the game going.
but it's actually done pretty well, and it looks really good.
There's a lot of
Graphic
cosmetic stuff.
Yeah, a lot of this combat is very simplified. It's not hotkeys and stuff. It's left mouse click as is, right mouse click as that, and like you got 3 hotkeys that you use for different attacks. So it's very simplified. Wow. It's a new expansion.
That'll probably be good for newer players.
Yep. Good PvP too if you're into good PvP.
No, I'm into really bad PvP. Sorry.
That just reminded me of so many games.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot more bad PvPs to choose from.
Yeah. Hey.
Hey!
That's a really good point.
It really is.
Never thought of it like that.
Me neither. Well, yeah, actually I did.
Just done.
Philosopher me.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to expand the PvP, and it adds new locations, new PvE stuff, which player versus player and player versus environment.
Okay, just for the listeners who aren't familiar with abbreviations, PvP means
Basically multiplayer. You're fighting other players, an arena type style or
okay.
mission
So
based.
PvP stands for multiplayer fighting other players. Okay.
Okay. Then PvP stands for player versus player.
Player
combat.
versus player. Okay. Well, I like the multiplayer versus other players. PvE and PvP. Okay.
And PvE is player versus environment, which is the players versus the
mountains
AI.
and trees and rocks.
No, it's
Player
artificial
wins.
intelligence.
Yeah,
AI. Yeah. Okay.
Player wins.
Player
Against
2
mountain.
loses.
Against tree.
Tree
Bonk.
clunge. Is it over?
Yeah, I've had that happen a few times.
Try and grapple
where
a tree.
I was out cutting wood and the tree wins. Yeah, it's trees have a punch like you wouldn't even
They
believe.
got very good hardness.
Yes, they do.
Actually, if I remember correctly, it's like a hardness of like 15.
5.
5?
Yeah.
50? How
50?
hard?
Hells yeah, I said 15.
Yeah.
Actually, no, it's a steel shield. I'm trying to remember the Dungeon Master shield.
Yeah.
Steel shield's 15.
Okay.
Don't quote me on
And
Yeah, sorry, it's on tape.
that. Oh, good. We have fun here at the tavern.
Yeah, we do. Even on location at the tavern.
for any of you
We
Elder
don't even have
Scrolls,
the tavern.
for anybody that plays interested in the Elder Scrolls Online beta, I believe they're going to be sending out new beta invites either the end of this month or beginning of April.
Okay.
And when is that actually released? But ESO, it's Skyrim Online. I mean, it looks like Skyrim Online.
Yeah. Okay.
The release date is April 4th. I don't know if they're going to do another beta between now and then. They may do one in March this month.
Okay. Well, keep us informed about that. And
that's it for me.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Josh. That was very, very cool and exciting news. So, Lyric, what's going on?
Well, next we are going to your mini birthday celebration here at Rhode Aaron.
Well, I've had many birthdays. So.
And then we will be doing a review for The Golden Kingdom by Jeremy James. And lastly, we will be doing DT Tips by Ian.
Okay.
Well,
don't go away. Don't go away, and we will be right back with birthday stuff.
Darkness stands between you and your salvation, so ready yourself to sling the holy bone. This moment can only be described as critical, as you charge the darkness, fearless and alone.
Take a breath and let the game begin. Let the games begin. Let the dragons in. Play the game and play the game to win. Time is wearing thin. Deep and tight you're in. So cast the die and let the games begin. Let the games begin. Let the dragons in. Play the game and play the game to win. Time is wearing thin. Deep and tight you're in. So cast the die and let the games. Cast the die and let the games. Cast the die and let the games begin.
And we're back, and we have a very special birthday celebrationary thing that's going on here. So let's see what's happening.
Well, we have a tavernier who could not be here today, and she has provided you a gift
Okay.
that she wanted me to give you, and I had to have something momentous to record it, so I decided to do it on the radio show.
Okay.
Before that, though, I'm going to give you the gift that I have provided, and that is this one.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's amazing. That is amazing.
For a previous occasion, I drew a picture of a family photo, and it was bad quality, so I decided to...
That's fantastic. I cannot wait to...
print it out again.
Get this in the frame.
I also
That's
gave you
amazing.
wallet stuff, so you can put them in your wallets.
That people will say, "What? Do you have any kids?" And I'll whip that out, and they'll be like,
What's
"Your
wrong
kids
with
are
them?
your kids are cartoons?" And I'll be like, "Yes."
I also... one of them is for Mom, also, because
That's
she asked for
awesome.
one.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
And then this one is extremely special. Be careful, it's kind of big.
Okay. Oh my god. A frame! I love it!
Turn it around.
Oh, it turns around. Oh. Oh my god. That's incredible. That is freaking awesome. That is an amazing dragon. Oh my god. That is just incredible. Look at this. Look at this dragon. This is my Strex. Strexonarius. That is incredible. This is going on the wall over my chair at home.
Tell people who it is, as they can see.
I wrote a story back in, I think it was 1990-ish, 89, 90. And it was called Strexonarius. And Strexonarius was a dragon, and I wanted to submit it to Dragon Magazine for publication, and they rejected it because of the end of the story, basically. And you can read it. I'll put it on the Dwarven Tavern website. And I was really upset and dejected because I was rejected, and really depressed. This is just amazing. Tavernier Lisa said, well, if you're upset about not doing it, not getting accepted, then you should just do your own thing. So where many authors will give up and a few will actually continue submitting until they get accepted, I went the route that only a couple have done and formed my own business because somebody else didn't like what I did. And that's when Dwarven Tavern was born. So this is monumental.
It's something to symbolize and commemorate to Dwarven Tavern and you at the same time.
21 years of Dwarven Tavern and 50 years of me and about 25 years of Strex. So yeah, this is amazing. It took I had to roll a will save that I just barely made to not just bawl my eyes out. Because this is amazing.
That's what the tavernier who is not here wanted to happen.
See, the camera on me helped me keep my composure. Otherwise, I would have been like...
This picture took me... I'm going to be honest. Josh didn't read Strexonarius. That was me asking for details.
She didn't tell me that till last night.
Okay.
And
That's awesome.
Also, that's another reason why I couldn't come to Ian's birthday, was because I was trying to finish this.
Oh, that's
Sorry,
so sweet.
Ian, but
No problems about that. You were busy.
I was busy
So,
with this, but I was also busy with schoolwork.
This
so cut me some
font,
slack.
this is your handwriting, isn't it?
No, it's
not?
It's not. I would have done it, but my handwriting would have been all over the place. So, otherwise,
Well,
yes, I would have.
it's still amazing.
It pretty much looks like your handwriting.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what my handwriting looks like?
Pretty much.
Well, this picture will be posted all over the Dwarven Tavern now. Because
Hells yes.
I was trying so hard not to give it away by posting it on the Dwarven Tavern, because I think it would be so perfect for the actual website.
Definitely. This is incredible.
It took
Absolutely
me forever
incredible.
And half the time I was like, this looks terrible, this looks fantastic, this looks terrible, this looks fantastic.
I would say fantastic. I would say fantastic. That is absolutely wonderful. Wonderful.
Well, happy birthday.
One of the best birthday presents I've ever gotten in my entire freaking life. That is amazing.
Are you just going to stare at it throughout the rest of the...
Yep, I'm done. I'm done for the day.
Well, I'm glad you like it.
Maybe we should have done that last.
The last detail I did, aside from the text, was the smoke coming from his nostrils.
Is that why you were asking me for smoke images?
Yes, actually. And I was going to do some sort of stock photo, but I don't know how I did it. But I managed to mesh some features together and actually made it look like smoke. So everything in this picture was done by me, except for the font. And it's one of my proudest dedications.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I'm surprised the color turned out so good. When I got it,
The color is amazing.
I got it actually the day after your birthday. I was so mad that it came late, but I got it after your birthday, and when I opened it, I freaked out. It looked so good.
Yeah, I could see that. I love the combination of chiaroscuro and lines.
Throw some words at it, Dad.
Chiaroscuro.
We'll have to explain
I know
for
what
those
lines
listening. who
I
don't.
believe it was one of the classic painters, like Raphael, or it wasn't Leonardo. Might have been Splinter, but I think it was Raphael who, or was it It might have been Donatello. Not even kidding. But one of the classics invented the art of chiaroscuro, which was the implication of shape using only shading and no lines, because his theory was that there are no lines in nature, it's all shading.
Which is true.
Which is true, and he basically was the father of modern art, or modern painting, which was at the time like the 17th century. So it was modern for then. I'm not talking about like Picasso, noses growing out of the forehead and stuff. I'm talking about the revolution in paint, where lines were not used to outline people. It was all done with shading. So it was just like here in the wing right there, and in the chest, the muscle area, those things, there are no lines depicting where things begin and end, but you can definitely see beginnings and endings because the shading says so. But in the same painting, in the same instance, you also have lines here and there, and on the face, and various other places, the mountains in the background, and so forth.
When I was on the computer,
That give it a very cartoony, classic feel. It's just incredible. It's just awesome.
when I was drawing it on the computer, I would always zoom in on the face, so right about here. And it looked perfect for something that should be on a poster saying, let the games begin, or something, because his face is just so determined and domineering. Like,
Right.
he's in charge, obviously, in the photo.
Yes.
So it just makes him look that much more badass.
One of the things that it reminds me of, with the lines and the shading, it reminds me of like a 15th century woodcut that's just coming out of the wood. It's coming to life.
That's a really big compliment, thank you.
Yeah.
Being compared to woodcuts, that's
That's
up there.
that's up there. So, for your birthday,
Oh, thank you very much.
I'm glad you like it.
It's incredible.
Most of this recording is just you guys staring at the painting.
Well,
it's gorgeous.
Well, what do you expect? Look at it.
And for those listening, we will post it all over the Dwarven Tavern, so you'll be able to see it for yourselves.
Yes. Well, thank you. That's amazing. That's an amazing thing.
So we will take a short break.
We will take a short break so I can go wipe my eyes.
And when we come back, we will be doing the review for the Golden Kingdom by Jeremy James.
And don't go away.
Into the room like a movie star, sits down in a chair like a queen on a throne, takes a short draw off a long cigarette, cuts through banality like a samurai, but it's not real. It's not real. Hypnotizes like a cobra. He's a wizard with a forked silver tongue. With platinum and silk in the promises he makes. He chews up reality like a crocodile, but it's not real. It's not real.
And we're back. Thanks for listening. Next up, we have Lyric doing her review of The Golden Kingdom. So, Lyric, go ahead. Take it away.
So, this book we received from Jeremy James at Gen Con. A fellow tavernier, Josh, talked to him, and while Josh was busy, I took it upon myself to read the book. And it's... first off, I got it through an ebook, so I don't have a material possession. I don't have a hard copy. However, I'm thinking very, very strongly that I need to get one because it is a fantastic book.
That's a good sign when you say, I've got it on ebook, but I need the hard copy.
I need the hard copy. So, let's begin with the cover. It's a very busy cover. It's got very simple colors, but it's very detailed. It has obviously over the top The Golden Kingdom Z by Jeremy James, and it has a man with glowing gold eyes and a helmet and a gun strapped to his back with a glowing globe.
There's a gun, isn't it?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
With a glowing globe behind him with a red hue, and then at the very top it says, "How far would you go to save the world?" Very interesting. It's not something that I personally would pick up and read, but at the same time, I don't know. because
Yeah.
after reading it, I definitely would pick it up.
Might
but-
change your priorities of what you read. Huh?
Right.
Yeah.
On one hand, it looks very military-esque. On the other, it looks very sci-fi. So I might pick it up because it kind of reminds me of Star Troopers?
Starship Troopers?
Starship Troopers, yes.
Star Troopers.
Star Troopers? I was thinking
Star
Stormtroopers,
Troopers.
Starship Troopers, mix them together, Star Troopers.
With their spaceships.
So, it reminds me a lot of that in the cover, so I probably would have picked it up. Further on into the book, I'm going to say the prologue started... Well, first he has a very few dedications to his family and friends. It's very quaint and short.
Okay.
You know, the necessary for the author. Then it goes to the prologue, and it was very hard to get through. The prologue was full of acronyms and a lot of explanation of those acronyms and characters that you didn't know.
Now, acronyms for our readers. Those are little fairies that like to eat dust bunnies, right?
No. Acronyms
I
are
that,
like...
though. I think that needs to be a thing.
Yeah, we should have acronyms in our house because of all the
Yeah.
cats.
Acronyms are like
It's
ASAP
player
standing
versus
for...
player. Combat.
Acronyms are like ASAP standing for as soon as possible.
Or PvP.
Oh, that's what that stands for? Okay. I thought it meant apples sour as pineapples. Yes.
Anyway.
Hard not to think of something dirty to say when you're coming up with that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hang on. One of the acronyms was the DFL. And it wasn't explained until, like... Well, I take that back. It was explained, like, immediately. But
Dark Force leggings.
it actually stands for the Dome Front Line.
Oh.
Because... I'm getting ahead of myself. This... Overall, it was... backing up. Cut that out. I just babbled. Okay, the very beginning...
Back it up.
After I got through the very kind of tedious prologue, which makes sense because it's a prologue.
I never read prologues.
The prologue was actually very important to the story.
I can't actually say I never read prologues. I only read prologues in books. Go ahead.
I hate them when they're just floating around.
Exactly. Those floating prologues.
The prologue was very important to the story. I mean, I don't think you could... You would have to start at that
Sounds
in
like a
order
swamp
to
creature.
get the understanding of what's going on. And
Run, it's the swamp prologue.
it makes you... When you read the prologue, you're like, I don't know any of these characters. And then when you get further on in the book, you're like, oh no!
Okay,
Oh,
so
it's one of those.
that's
Yeah.
actually very clever to have the prologue mention people that you can look back to. It gives you a little boost of familiarity.
Right, yeah.
Familiarity.
But...
I said it like that.
It was, as soon as I began to read the first chapter, it began very interesting, and I was very captivated by the book.
You're very captive.
I'm very captive.
I always have to tie myself up to read. Makes it hard to turn the pages, but
This
I use my
book,
nose.
this book was in the perspective of someone who killed. He was a soldier. Specifically, they're called law marshals, and there's so much to the story. There's no real starting point.
Are there other kinds of marshals?
There's
Martial arts.
Like oh,
well, the first.
Martial artiste.
the art marshal.
Should I just stop talking so you guys can joke?
Go on.
I wouldn't call what I was doing joking.
First off, the first chapter explains what's going on with the... It lays out the setting. And that is that what happened, there were suddenly giant domes over certain parts of the world. like, I mean giant, like all the way from California to the middle of Chicago.
Jesus.
And like
Wow.
a good portion of Canada and the beginning of Mexico is just all consumed in this one giant golden dome, and it was just it didn't descend or just grow. It just was there one day, and people didn't know what to do, so they just they didn't freak out because they were like, what's this?
What?
And it wasn't just over the United States, it was over, like, large continents. Like, half of Russia, and half of China, and all of Australia. They were just gone. And they could go in the dome, but nothing came out. And so, that being said, half the world was gone. This book is what would happen if half the world was just gone. And you couldn't communicate with the rest of the world in those domes. And it laid it out perfectly. There, all of a sudden, gas was no longer an option. Gasoline could not be purchased, so they developed hydrogen fuel and
That's very cool.
solar-powered stuff.
That's almost what it's probably going to really take for us to get off gas completely.
Right. And military stepped in for absolutely everything. If you wanted to live and have a job and support your family, then you needed to become either a law marshal or an officer, depending on where in the United States, where left in the United States you were located. There was this one person who decided to, rally the troops, basically, and he ended up taking up the entire South. He ended up overtaking the entire South and then renamed them the Sovereign States. So, the Southern boys, as they're furthermore described as, are the officers, and the ones up north are the law marshals, and they're always conflicting. So, there's war with the Dome, and then there's civil war in the United States. So, a few characters. There are, oh my god, there are so many good characters in this book. I love, my favorite would have to be Jeff. Her name is Karen Jeffries, but everyone calls her Jeff. And she is, I would, if I knew her, I would totally hang out with her. She's so she's like a guy. And it's amazing because she acts like me, and she jokes with the other dudes and makes fun of the dudes, and they can't make fun of her back because she's just so manly, and it's awesome. And then there's Rennie Tristan. They just call her Rennie. Mm-hmm. She and Sam, who's the main character, meet up, and they battle with the officers, and they end up falling in love, and you can see it coming, and at first it's just like, oh no, not another love story. But it's not. It's really easygoing, and it's
Don't give away too much of the book now.
well, it's cute, and in the other aspect, it makes sense because the main character, he's a marshal, and he joined when he was 16 years old. Mm-hmm. And in the book where it starts, he's 19, and he's killed and decimated people and wiped out entire office buildings full of people, and he's a stone cold killer because he's had to do this for 3 years.
Is it him coming to terms with it? Does it bother him at all?
Yeah, he's completely. At first, he's just like, "This is what I do. I'm not that kind of." He's like, "Are you?" In the beginning of the book, he is taking over an office building, waiting for the regional administrator, who is kind of like the mayor. Mm-hmm. He's going to take him out because they're working for the other dudes. That being said, an officer who works for the regional administrator comes in and sneaks up on him. So Sam, the main character, stabs him in the chest and leaves him in the corner to die. And the officer is complaining and begging him to save him. And he's like, you're a marshal, you're supposed to look after the people and help the people. And he says, I'm not that kind of marshal, and kills him.
Ah, so there are different kinds of marshals.
Well, he's...
Well, that makes sense.
Well, when he said, I'm not that kind of marshal, he's not saying, I'm not the kind of marshal who saves people. I'm the kind of marshal who does my job. And that line is haunting him throughout the entire book. And that is what... That's the conflict inside him. And Sam goes through all these different awful conflicts that makes him crack. He's tortured by what he has to do in order to survive and save the people he loves. And speaking of people he loves, when he meets Rennie, they don't actually get together for like a year and a few months. They have to know each other and survive with each other in order to trust one another, because this is a dog-eat-dog world that they're in, like literally. And
there were dogs eating dogs.
Yes.
Wow.
But
violent.
It is.
There were things created by the dome. It wasn't just it's there and that's it. You have to deal with the rest of the world. There were things that come out, but they are not humans. At least not anymore. And I don't want to give so much away that you don't want to read the book, but at the same time, I want to explain everything. So, what comes out are monsters, basically. What kind of monsters? They're just so creepy and awful, and they're mindless savages that come from the dome and populate abandoned areas. And at one point in time, Sam and Rennie have to go to the grocery store because they're out of food. And they need to look for canned food. It's kind of like a zombie apocalypse and what you would do, only the zombies are not zombies, but monsters.
Okay.
And Sam almost loses his life. He almost loses his life a lot of times, which makes a lot of sense for this particular setting. Also, I'm reading over notes that I took. There's just so many components to this book. There's the wars that break out, and the different sides. Then there are monsters that come from the dome. Then there are aliens that you have to deal with. And then there are sides that you're taking that end up being the wrong side. And it's just, there's so much thought put into this book that you don't actually understand what's going on until you've read it 4 times, because you have to reread that paragraph to make sure you understand.
Wow.
So, it's a really well-written book. That being said, there are a few things that I would like to mention. The nicknames is kind of a theme for this book. Like, everybody has a nickname. And Sam's real name is Ezekiel Samuels. Everyone just calls him either Zeke or Sam. Karen Jeffries is obviously Jeff. William Farewell is named Grumpy. And Gunnery Sergeant is named Gunny, and just like things like that. Right. And Their weapons have awesome nicknames. Like the BR-11 is a made-up gun for this particular universe where it fires ice pellets in the form of bullets. So you only really have to reload it with water.
An invisible bullet.
That's awesome.
And it can, it's kind of like a ray gun where it can see through walls also, but it's a prototype, so throughout the book it glitches and you can't get a good shot with it, and sometimes it's practically useless because of that. But its nickname is the Bring It.
The Bring It.
And I loved that. And another nickname that I adored was a rocket launcher that Jeff had called the Beef Eater. And I thought that was the best nickname for a rocket launcher in the world.
I
Beef
love,
Eater.
Nicknamed weapons like Fallout-esque, like the Fallout-esque video game weapons.
Yeah.
It's this. Let's see. The font was not Times New Roman. It was. I think it was Arial with the really big bubbly letters. And at first, I thought that was kind of weird. But as I read it, it just made it so much easier to read.
Really? Was it a sans serif font or?
Oh, I'm not sure. Here's the. I mean, I think it's Arial. I think.
No, I don't think it's Arial. It's got serifs. Arial is a sans serif font, whereas Times New is a serif font. That looks more like Garamond.
Well, I liked it.
Garamond is a font.
I liked the font for this book. I think it made it a lot easier to read than Times New Roman would. There were some errors that I need to point out. A lot of grammatical errors, like forgotten punctuation, such as quotation marks or periods or commas, or unnecessary quotation marks, or hyphens mostly. And
How dare you?
there was this one particular sentence that said the beast flailing beast in one sentence, and I just looked at that for a little bit and I'm like, that's something that should have been caught, I think.
So it was a beast that flailed with other beasts? Smaller
I'm gonna
beasts?
hit you so hard.
I'm going to hit you with this little beast.
A beast with another beast.
Yes, I have actually.
I think it was just something that an editor should have caught. So my problem with this book is that maybe an editor should have looked over it before giving it out to the public.
Were there a lot of these types of errors, or was it just an annoying few?
It was. At first, it was just an annoying few, but when I got through the entire book, I realized that maybe an editor hasn't really looked at this book. And if an editor has, then that editor should go back to school, because these were very glaring mistakes.
Wow.
Like missing quotation marks. That's especially when that was the only thing that was on that line. It's like the quotation marks, please.
Right.
And let's see. There were a lot of alien words in this book, because later on, aliens are there. I'm not going to say how or what, but they're there.
Giant golden domes.
It's kind of obvious.
Kind of a giveaway.
But there were very odd pronunciations, like a particular word is spelled Z-Y-I-I. And at first I wasn't sure how to pronounce it, but I figured that with a foreign language, they would use Y's as saying the I noise. So I pronounced it Zai throughout the entire book. I looked, and there was no pronunciation guide, so I think that there should be, at least in the back of the book, so that the readers can go in the back of the book and see how it's pronounced.
There are a few authors that put in odd names for their odd, uncertain pronunciable names.
Right.
Pronunciable.
Like there's this,
as opposed to me, who just doesn't pronounce things right anyway.
Well, there was this one character who had
Me who doesn't.
Kyr in her name, and I wasn't sure if it was pronounced Kier or Kyr.
Yeah.
So I pronounced it both ways while I was reading the book, and that made it kind of difficult to
Well,
get.
the M is silent, so it was probably Kier or Kyr.
So, let's see. What other thing should I mention?
It's silent, like a martial art.
Like a martial artist. An arts martial.
Overall, this book was... it had some really fast parts and some really slow parts. So, I mean, it sounds like
a
should
book.
be... Yeah, sounds like a book.
What was the page count?
350? Hang on, let me look. Including the epilogue, it was 351 pages.
Wow.
And that's not including
So,
about the author and
You
all
said
that.
you said it was complex. It was a complex story.
Oh,
did
yes.
Did the complexity make it cumbersome at all, or was it well done?
At first it was, like I said, the prologue was kind of, hard to get through.
Mm-hmm.
But after, at first, the first part of the book was about a relationship developing. Second half of the book was about discovering there was more to the world than we realized. And then the third part of the book was discovering that we needed to do something about this world that our government was already manhandling.
Right. Well, that alone makes it better than Twilight. Because, the first part of the book was about a relationship developing. Then in the middle of the book, there was a relationship developing, and then toward the end, it was in the fourth book, it was a relationship developing. And then somewhere in there were vampires that were more like
fairies.
fairies.
This is so much better than Twilight. I could cry.
Now, this is the first book in a series that we have.
Yes.
Actually, they're saying it's that much better than Twilight. If you could cry isn't really saying that much.
That's true. I've read some fortune cookies that were so much better than Twilight I could cry.
Now, does it end as a cliffhanger into the next book?
It almost ends as a cliffhanger, but at the same time, you could read this book by itself, and it would be...
That's cool, because I've seen a lot of books that...
Okay, hang on. Stop making her meow! It's not funny.
He's doing it too.
Both of you, stop! Because that's picked up on the radio, and it's not cool at all.
Okay, I'm sorry.
There are a lot of books that end on cliffhangers that are really annoying. That they're such cliffhangers. It's really hard to write a cliffhanger that makes you want to read the next book without it and still resolve the story. So you're saying that this did a really good job of resolving the story of this one book and then giving you something to look forward to reading later.
Right, it made a character vanish, and it explained why, but at the same time, you're like, is it going to show up again later?
Right.
Or are these characters going to end up happily ever after, like this book really says, or is there more to it? What's going on inside the dome? Stuff like that.
Okay.
And it explains all of your questions, but at the same time, there could be a bigger explanation that you don't even see coming.
So
and
it's like Lost.
this book was... There was so many times when I had an Osh moment where I was like, oh my god! And... oh god, my mind was blown several times. I cried, I laughed, I cheered, I was angry. This book was just full of emotion.
That's
and
cool. That's cool.
I could relate to the characters so much. Like, Rennie is a lefty, and I am a lefty, so I
Right.
take pride in my lefties. So as soon as it said that she was, and at one point in time she's being tortured by parts of a government that needed to get information out of her, and she ends up getting her left hand wounded by their torturing. And I was just like, no, my lefty, don't! And, like, so many of the characters jokes I can laugh at.
You know, it's funny though, because left-handedness is it's very historically maligned. It makes me wonder if the author knew this, because there were no left-handed knights.
Right.
Because they said that left-handed people were possessed by the devil and usually burn them or something.
Of course.
That's a sensible thing to do.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
burn
totally.
it.
It's a
Oh
Christian
boy,
thing.
Very
I feel
small.
very outnumbered right now.
Yeah.
But
She's a witch.
this book is so real at the same time, because it doesn't break a fourth wall. It actually gives you a wall to put up, the dome, lol.
Yeah.
And it's like you relate to the characters, and what they do makes sense in that situation, and it's just, I don't know. I don't know how else to describe it other
That's
than it
very
was
cool.
just so real. Like, what would happen if half of the United States just suddenly vanished and you had no contact with them? This would happen. War would happen. Civil war would break out between who wanted what, and
Right.
the United States would fall apart, and poverty and
Not to mention the massive shortage of food that would happen.
right, poverty, starvation, fuel lack thereof
Right.
would
right.
happen,
And other horsemen as well.
and it wasn't with the United States alone. It was with every single continent
Wow.
that was half, if not all, consumed by these domes. What would you do? What would you be able to do?
Depends on which side of the dome we were on, I guess.
And
Was
it
Ohio
does.
safe?
Ohio was outside of the dome. Like
Awesome.
it provides a picture of the United States in the
that's
first
what
chapter.
that picture is.
Yes.
Okay.
Here, I will show it to you.
Not the listeners, because they can't see us.
I apologize.
I'll hold the microphone down where they can see the picture.
Well, if we say it in the right way and they transcribe it.
This is how
somehow.
much of the United States was overcome by
Good
the dome.
Lord.
Yeah.
Holy.
It literally cuts Chicago in
It's
two.
from
It cuts Texas in half
the tip of Washington State
into Canada.
into Canada, down all the way down to New Mexico, part of Texas,
Jeez.
centered in what is that, Utah,
From
Wyoming?
the edge of, from the very edge of Kentucky all the way over, consuming all of California.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very smidgen bits of California are still outside the dome, but
That is a lot of dome.
that is a huge dome.
Now, what's it made out of? Does it say?
No.
Is it energy? Or what?
All he could describe it as is a rippling gold blob. It's like sitting water in front of you.
And you
And
can't penetrate it.
when you touch it, because when it... Lexi! Stop.
Lexi.
She went the wrong direction. But, what
When
was
you
I
touch
saying?
When you touch it,
In an early chapter, it describes what happens when you touch the dome wall. The filmer, he described it as if you had a television, then you knew what would happen, because since half of the world was gone, you lost a lot of what you thought were important things, like the TV channels and cell
Internet.
phones and internet. Those things didn't matter anymore. You wanted water and shelter and food to provide for your family. That's all that mattered. So the ones who did have television would be able to watch the dome consume a person. The moment you touch the gel, you would be sucked in very slowly. So
So how does-
the film watched the not the photographer, what is it called?
the cameraman.
Cameraman, thank you. The cameraman watched as a woman touched the wall, and then it looked as if someone were pulling her inside.
How do they get into the dome then? She said they can kind of go in.
Well,
there a
there is a device that, not really a device so much as an injection that they get that allows them to cross into the dome. and see what's on the other side. I don't want to give anything away because that's so important to the storyline.
Right.
It sounds amazing. It sounds great.
It does sound like a very good book. How many axes would you give it?
Well, taking into consideration the intricateness of the plot, but also the grammatical errors and the lack of editor assistance, I would have to give this book, I'm going to say out of 4, I will give it a 3.5.
Awesome.
So, while the grammar was not a huge thing, it was very constant. And the prologue was very difficult to get through. And there weren't any spelling mistakes, but there were some unnecessary words.
Okay.
So, a 3.5 out of 4 is what I would give it.
And that book was called...
The Golden Kingdom Z, Book 1, out of I'm not sure how many.
At least one more. We have the sequel that we have to review as too. So
Okay.
By Jeremy James.
Okay. Well, that's excellent. So we'll have pictures of the book on the website, and
let me see if the ISBN number is on this so that you can look it up for yourselves.
yes.
It might only be contacted through... you might only be able to get it through the author.
Okay.
So,
Well, I see 2 books down there.
there are 3. There are 3 books of the Golden Kingdom series.
So it's a trilogy. Okay.
I'm not sure if that's all there is, but that's what it says.
Okay.
So, it doesn't have the ISBN number on this particular, but it does have a website, www.phoenix1alpha.com.
Okay.
That's where you can read most of his...
So go get this book and support independent writers. Definitely. Definitely. Okay, so next up we're going to talk to Ian a little bit about DM ticks and trips.
About
Pimp
your game.
Pimp your game. That's right. And how to do. I think we're going to do names, perhaps.
Let me look and see what we have, and we will leave it a mystery until we come back.
Mystery. Okay, so don't go away, and we'll be right back.
In the end, are we just dreaming? In the end, do we go on? In the end, does something beckon like the coming of the dawn? In the end, are we delivered? In the end, does something call? Is the end just a beginning? In the end, do we just fall?
What is that twinkling in the corner of your sparkling eye? Essence incorporeal reflections of mankind passing by. Many illusions as eternally through space we fly.
a soul to party as the final breath is through. Or is it just evaporation of the morning's dying dew? Cellular generation creeping up on me and you. Put down the evidence and telling where the fledgling angels flew. In the end, do we just dreaming? In the end, do we go on? In the end, there's something beckoning like the coming of the dawn. In the end, are we delivered? In the end, does something call? Is the end just the beginning? In the end, did we just fall?
And we're back, and this time we're going to kind of hand the mic over to Ian and talk about naming conventions for characters and other things as well. So, Ian, what is your method for coming up with interesting names? Because you do have some.
Go on.
You do have some interesting names.
Well, most of them I literally make up on the spot, which that's almost all of my. Actually, yeah, pretty much all of my names are made up on the spot. But I also use. I open up a text pad or something, a little writing thing on my phone, and I look over and I like pick out something in the fridge and read what its name is, and then read something else, and then I just start cutting out letters until I get an interesting name that's pronounceable.
Okay, that's very cool.
Like, how did you get Zephyrzer?
Zephyrzer, the freezer. And I just put a Z.
Okay.
Yeah, Zephyrzer.
Zephyrzer.
And Sebastian did the same thing, and his character's name was Torufon, and it was turn off your phone.
So you're just taking phrases, common phrases,
Yeah,
and
Just like Toss Condor Underbot.
Toss Condor Underboth.
cuss under underbot.
That's Laroska's last name.
Yes, my
Lavator.
Lavator.
Lavator. That's my sorcerer to be.
He's really moving up in the world.
Yeah. A Lavator.
He can only go up and down.
No, his magic is based solely on flight and escalation.
Is his slower brother named Escalator?
Yes, he's a knight.
Actually, yeah, that's yeah.
Is that true?
That's actually his name.
Okay.
Yeah, Escalator.
That's not funny because it's exactly true.
That was going to be Ian's character.
The only difference is when one of them is broken, only one of them is still usable. When they both break, only one's still usable.
That's right. Escalator. Even when he's dead, you can. So anyway,
moving on.
Yeah, it got old quickly. I realized I saw the humor pool and it was empty. So my own particular method is to take a name, an actual name, like a name. I can't think of any names.
Sarah.
Sarah. Okay, let's say Sarah, and add a different name or a different letter in place of one. Just replace it with.
So let's replace the H with an F and the E's with the A's with O's.
The E's. What E's are in there?
Sierra. The A's with O's. You would spelling it that way. You would get Soroff. Which is a really cool name.
You're right.
Ta-da!
Or you take Sarah and replace it with a different first letter, like T with Terra, but that's also a real.
That's
name.
actually a real name.
Yeah,
How'd
Mara.
you get Escavrius?
In Scavrius, Facilinalriel. That was a very incredibly rudimentary knowledge of the Elven language and its pronunciation patterns, and a kind of a little bit of knowledge on some of the more common syllables. And I can't talk, but still.
I think that's the theme for the day.
Just
Really?
because you can't talk doesn't mean it's not interesting.
You're right. Some common syllables, and just putting them all together with different trial and errors until it sounded right. So that's how I got in Scavrius. One of my favorite characters was the gnome brothers that no one ever saw. but they always kept coming in and messing things up, and they would blame it on them. And the oldest brother was Puyug Dugarug and Oklapop. Then his brother Hekranakarinatol Aranaran. And
Wow, I would never be able to remember those names.
and then the youngest one was Jiklapipper And
Those gnomes.
those gnomes. And I got those by finding out which letter went into the next one the most smooth. So I started out with a beginning syllable like poo, and it's like what comes easiest after oo, poo. So I got poo-yug. And then, after the D, it kind of ended a little bit, but D-g, it seems to flow nicely into duh. Poo-yug-duh-yug-dug-rug. And I just kind of sounded it out like that as I went, and that's how I got Poo-yug-dug-rug and Oklapop.
Wow. That explains why it rolls off your tongue so
And
easily.
it rolls off the tongue very, very easily. So, but that's gnomes, and gnomes are...
And that's
My
when they're
gnomes.
gnomes.
That's
My
why they're
gnomes are actually named very inanimate object-wise. Like, I created a gnome that we will be posting on the Dwarven Tavern for my examples of drawing race, whose name is Shoestring Simmerpins. And,
I like that.
and it's just... His name, excuse me, it's a very androgynous character.
Uh-huh.
Shoestring is just an inanimate object laying around. Gnomes like to be nicknamed, so Shoestring might have had some...
When he was little, did they call him Chewy?
Well, the nicknames come from whatever, so Shoestring was his
Does he
nickname.
get tongue-tied a lot?
And Simmerpins is... I had pan, and there was a simmering pan on the countertop, and I was just like, well, simmer pans... But simmer pants doesn't roll as good as simmer pins.
And it sounds like simmer pants.
Right. So I decided to go with simmer pins, and it just
That's cool. I like that.
Shoestring
I like that a
simmer
lot.
pins is just
Shoestring simmer
his
pins.
name.
He's got a lot of soul.
Yeah, and another one of my gnomish characters
You got me.
is. Oh no! I forgot his name.
Oh no.
Devake. Oh, his last name's so funny. I don't remember. I'll have to cut that
Oh,
out.
yeah, we have to update us on that one.
Yeah.
So Josh, you're relatively new to the game. You've been playing for how long now? About a year?
2 years.
2 years.
Well, a little over 2 years.
Okay.
2.5.
So you're still technically a probie, as they would say in NCIS. You've come up with some really, really good names, like Niven and Cillian. What was your method for coming up with a fantasy name? Did you just go with what sounded cool and what was different?
I tried to find it. I'm pretty sure this is most people do. I tried to find a name that would fit the race.
Okay,
I don't want
that's a good start.
Elven name for an orcish guy.
Right.
A lot of times I just went on.
My name is Galadriel. Yeah, I don't think.
Actually, that would probably play into his
I wouldn't
story.
argue with him.
Yeah. Like, my name is Fluffy.
Yes, it is.
It's like, oh, okay. We'll work with that.
So you got the name to match the race. That's a really good start.
Like
And
Buduk.
a lot of times I would just take two names and just put them together.
Put them together until they
Like
sound
that's
right.
how I got Aldous. It was like I took Ald from one name and I was like, well, I like this name, so I'll just put it. A lot of times it's kind of like how I pick names for like MMOs. Random. I like that one. Let me take a few letters out and add a couple more.
So what we've all done here, I think what we've all kind of agreed on is it doesn't matter what kind of methodology you use, you can come up with cool names if you just put enough effort into it. Because it sounded like you put a lot of effort into that, even though,
Or I just take
it was different than all the rest of our methods that were different from everybody else's.
Or I just take Cillian, like Cillian's name, and just spell it backwards, and that's Nailless.
Nailless.
And I do that for a couple. I've done that before. Just take a name and spell it backwards.
Like Bob.
Yeah.
Yes. I agree.
Niven's name backwards is Naveen.
Naveen. It's actually the
Naveen.
same thing. You just have to have an accent to it. Naveen.
Naveen. Okay,
Which is
so
already a name.
that is about all the time we have time for this time. I'll say time a couple more times so you can time that. And we'll cut.
You got timed out.
I got timed out. I did. I really did. I timed out. So that's about all. That's about all we have time for this time.
Well, that sums up today's lesson.
That sums up today's lesson in repeating
In
things in
Time,
time.
space, continuum.
Yes. That's about all we have time for in this edition of Dwarven Tavern Radio, on location in Rhode Aaron, which is a very cool kingdom. I'm actually playing an NPC in this particular world, and
It's not really an NPC now.
Well, now
It's a PC.
I've kind of claimed him, but
You can do whatever you want.
he's really cool. He's one of my favorite
You
characters.
gave him life.
Yeah, well, that would be a good topic for another episode, honestly. So, on behalf of the entire cast and crew of the Dwarven Tavern Radio Show, I am your host, Jeff Goins, along with...
Lyric Gods.
Ian Goins.
Josh, go for it.
And we want for you to wish for nothing but adventure. And at first I feared it, then I charged. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.